Hello, everyone. Welcome again to another Teacher Joseph podcast. Today, I want to tell you about a TV show which I like very much, and we're going to go through the lyrics of the theme tune of this TV show. So, first of all, let me tell you what it is. It's an Australian drama from the 1970s, which arrived on British TV about 10 years later. Well, Australia was far away in those days, and it was called Prisoner Cell Block H. On American TV, it was called simply Prisoner, but we already had a TV show here called Prisoner about a man on an island being chased by a white ball. So we kind of had to change the name of the Australian one just so we could tell the difference between the two TV shows. Prisoner Cell Block H was broadcast regularly here in the UK in the 1980s, and it was all about a women's prison. Now, there were many reasons why this TV show was attractive. Reason number one, it was Australian. And for British people, Australia, well, it was on the other side of the world, so we didn't really get to see or hear too much about it. Number two, they spoke English. It was like an American TV show, but not quite with all the bells and whistles which Hollywood produces. And also culturally, it was a little bit American with all of the fashions and styles, but it was also a little bit British with all of the surnames and British cultural references. After all, it was in the past one of our colonies. They had a lot of British traditions, which British people loved, of course. Prisoner Cell Block H was very popular. I mean, we had many other Australian dramas as well, such as A Country Practice, Sons and Daughters, The Young Doctors. But there was something special about Prisoner. I'm not sure if it was the bad acting, or maybe even because most of the actors, at least 50% anyway, seem to have been born here and immigrated to Australia in their younger years. We had some kind of affiliation with them. It was just nice. And they recently resurrected Prisoner Cell Block H and created a new spin-off drama called Wentworth. Prisoner Cell Block H, it was made in a fictional town called Wentworth. It never actually existed, of course. And this new drama they made in the last decade was simply called Wentworth, focusing in again on the women's prison. It also highlighted some wonderful social problems which existed in that day, which hadn't made it on to TV. I say wonderful social problems. The social problems themselves weren't wonderful, but it was wonderful to finally see them arriving on TV. Because it was a women's drama inside a prison, many of these crimes that these women had committed were things which still were not really spoken about in society. The woman's role was usually at home. For a woman to be in prison for murder was something that you didn't usually see on TV. These things made Prisoner very, very attractive. But the most attractive thing for me had to be the end credits. The end credits of the TV show Prisoner Cell Block H featured a guard, a female security guard or prison officer, locking up in the evening, and she's slowly walking through the prison, closing all the gates, holding a clipboard, ticking off the names as she goes. And of course, because it's the end of the show, it's kind of dark, so she's kind of like a silhouette figure walking through this this prison, opening the little windows of each cell, peering in or peeking in just to make sure that everyone's asleep. It was kind of maternal, reassuring, and at the same time bringing the series or the episode of the series to a lovely close. And while this very hard-looking woman is walking through the prison, ensuring it was locked, there was a lovely theme tune. There was a woman singing a ballad. And that's what we're going to look at today. So let's go through that. This is called On the Inside, which is a reference to prisons. If we say someone's inside or on or in the inside, we're just referring to them being in prison. Okay, so this song is by Lynn Hamilton. She was an English singer who moved to Australia. You see, even the singer was English. And she says here in her song, "He used to give me roses. I wish he could again. But that was on the outside, and things were different then." That sounds more like an ABBA song, doesn't it? So Lynn is singing this song, portraying these women who were in prison. By the way, Prisoner Cell Block H wasn't just for prisoners who had been in prison for very soft crimes like shoplifting. They were serial killers, murderers, and these kind of people. "He used to give me roses, I wish he could again, but that was on the outside, and things were different then. We'd built our world together." Now see the contraction. We'd built, we had built. "We'd built our world together with a love so clear and strong. But that was on the outside. Where did I go wrong?" And so it's referring here, I suppose, to these women who've made mistakes. And then Lynn tells us, "On the inside, the sun still shines and the rain falls down. But the sun and rain are prisoners too when morning comes around." Now, apparently, when Lynn was recording this, she suddenly started crying because it was so emotional. And the producer loved it and immediately awarded her the contract to sing it. And then it says here, "Last night I dreamed we were together." Should that not be dreamt? Last night I dreamt we were together. Yeah, had always, or is dreamt the participle? I'll have to check on that. Could be different in Australian English anyway. It says here, "Last night I dreamed we were together, sharing all the love we've known." Really? Oh, interesting. Yeah, "Last night I dreamed we were together, sharing all the love we've known, till I had to face the nightmare of waking up alone." Oh, that sounds hard for Lynn, doesn't it? Anyway, then she goes on to tell us again, "On the inside, the sun still shines and the rain falls down, but the sun and rain are prisoners too when morning comes around." And then she says, "On the inside, the roses grow. They don't mind the stony ground." So, yeah, stony ground is ground with little stones in it. It's harder for things to grow. Well, she says, "On the inside, the roses grow. They don't mind the stony ground." Oh, really? Well, she must have some good soil because I've planted roses and they don't grow in stony ground. In fact, I had to buy compost this year for my roses. Anyway, maybe I'm reading too much into this. On the inside, the roses grow. They don't mind the stony ground, but the roses here are prisoners too when morning comes around. And then Lynn tells us in her last big moment, he used to give me roses, I wish he could again, but that was on the outside and things were different then. If you do want to see Prisoner Cell Block H, it's all on YouTube. I'm currently going through the episodes again. The acting really is rough, I have to say. But I do love the governor, Mrs. Davidson, who has a very strong English voice. And I tell you, when she visits the laundry, you know that somebody is in trouble. Mrs. Davidson is the governor, and the laundry is where the prisoners work. But a wonderful show. And if you've ever watched any Australian TV show, you'll see the same actresses coming up again and again and again, because it looks to me like there's only a handful of them, because every time I watch anything from Australia, it's always the same ones. So I love Prisoner Cell Block H. It's all on YouTube. So if you're interested, have a look. It has a huge cult following, both in Australia and here. And I really do recommend that you spend some time getting to know it. The accents aren't particularly strong. I mean, even for me, of course, if you watch something that's not British, it takes an extra few moments just to understand what's happening and what's going on to catch the accents. But it's very clear. It's very clear. So let's just see what Lynn is teaching us in this song again before we finish. He used to give me roses, I wish he could again, but that was on the outside and things were different then. She tells us, we'd built our world together with a love so clear and strong, but that was on the outside. Where did I go wrong? Then she tells us again, on the inside, the sun still shines and the rain falls down, but the sun and rain are prisoners too when morning comes around. And then she has her romantic moment. She tells us, last night I dreamed, I'm sure that should be dreamt. We were together, sharing all the love we've known, till I had to face the nightmare of waking up alone. And then she tells us again about roses growing in the stony ground. And then she says, the roses here are prisoners too when morning comes around. Yeah. You know, in the days before the internet, it was very hard to find information about TV shows like Prisoner. You really had to go through a lot of magazines and books to try to find anything, even about an actor or why they left the series. So really very interesting, very interesting. So that's it. Prisoner Cell Block H, all on YouTube with a lovely theme tune. And that part where the female prison officer walks through the prison, making sure they're all okay and locking all the doors at night time, it is good. I'm noticing that these days you don't really get songs in TV shows. It's usually just theme tunes now, which is a great pity, because I'd like to hear people singing again at the end of my favourite show. Right, that's it from me. So enjoy your day, whatever you're doing, and I'll be back tomorrow morning with next week's weekly lesson. See you. Bye.